Hey guys, what's going on? Sincere here with whoissincere.com and the All Rights Matter show. I don't even want to do this video, if you want me to be honest with you. I've procrastinated all day doing it. I don't know, I'm just really depressed about all of this stuff, so please excuse me if I'm not upbeat during this video, but you know, the kind of information that I have here is just more depressing information now. You know what's going on in the media right now with the demonization of Black Lives Matter, with them being looked down upon as just a terrorist organization. I believe, you know, Malcolm X worded it best, you know, some time ago, and I'll share a link below for that video. But he talks about times like this, and actually times like they experienced back then, where, you know, instead of actually looking to fix the situation at the root cause of what's going on, what the problems are that are causing these massive eruptions, instead you look, you know, the oppressor looks for ways to either minimize or silence the actual victim or demonize the victim. And that's what we see happening now through our media. We see them propagating a race war right now. We see a ton of racial division across the country. And it's just not cool, but it's what's really going on right now. And so, you know, these are the signs of our time. So I just want to share a couple of cases with you guys, you know, that have come to mind lately for me to show you why Black Lives Matter is actually in the streets, why they're doing what they're doing. I may not agree with the leadership of Black Lives Matter, but at the same time, I agree with the causes. Now, if I can agree with them, and if professors, Princeton professors, I said it right, Princeton professors, like Professor Eddie Glaude Jr., gave a brilliant speech last year on Black Lives Matter and why it's important to keep the movement actually going and what it actually truly represents. So if I can agree with it, and people like, you know, a Princeton professor can agree with it, a scholar, I feel pretty okay about that. And I want to share with you why we should keep this movement going, because Black Lives Matter is not just for Black people. It's Black people standing up for their rights, of course, because that's necessary because of, you know, the systemic racism, the prejudices that, you know, fill the African Americans' life here in the United States. So we're talking about from education to employment, you know, to incarceration, you name it. And you know, the African American has a pretty tough life in this country, especially if you grow up in a tax zone that's not very good. You're growing up in a community where your black dollar doesn't even bounce, you know, a few times before it leaves the community and goes into another, you know, person's hand or another race's hand. The same is, not true for our white brothers and sisters. They spend money in their community within their tax zones, and the money is normally circulated for about, you know, for quite some time before it actually leaves the community. I believe Asian people, the money is circulated for like a total of 30 days before it leaves their community. White people, I think it bounces about 9 times before it leaves the community. So our communities have been exploited, you know, beyond belief. And our education system is not set up to employ tomorrow's youth with good jobs. And not just good jobs that, you know, barely get you by. We're talking about jobs that will help you to thrive, that will set you up for a good, you know, college future, so that you can actually get into a career field where you can thrive in America. So that's what Black Lives Matter is pretty much about. But I want to share with you a couple stories here where this is why it's important that we continue to stand up.
One of the individuals that I'm going to share with you is actually a white male, but we're not going to start with his story. We're actually going to start with a report that I found. Let's try to bring this up here. Now, this report is tremendously interesting, guys. You're going to, let me see here. My laptop's a little slow, so please forgive me for that, but I'm going to show you some. This report is called Invisible Portrayal: Police Violence and the Rapes of Black Women in the United States. It was written in September of 2014. It was submitted by, I believe that's Yolanda. I'm just going to say it like that. I could be saying her name wrong. Tomlinson, who is a PhD. You can see she has, a couple degrees. Let me see, with the special report compiled by Women's All Points Bulletin. So this is a report that contains real statistical information by a professional. It's not just compiled by, some random YouTubers. I'm going to link for this report for you so you can go ahead and download it, but the title says it all. We're talking about something that's literally, invisible. People don't talk about it. The police violence going on, people do talk about that, but they don't talk about the rape that is happening at the hands of police officers. And I believe that of the violence that is being left out that we can't afford. This is not about people just losing their lives, and which is very, it's huge. But this goes a lot deeper. This goes into people, having their souls victimized till it's the death of their soul, where a fraction of these people actually go on to commit suicide. So that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about people's souls are being assassinated, where literally the livelihood, the rest of their life is going to be affected, and most of the time, of course, in a negative way when you're talking about rape, any kind of violent sexual crime. So, like I said, I'm going to leave a link for this, and I'm going to scroll down actually so you can look at this, but I'm going to take you to a chart that to me is just, it says everything that needs to be said, and it really puts in perspective why we're struggling here and why we're fighting in the Black Lives Matter movement, and also why I'm standing up for my movement, the All Rights Matter movement. That's what this is really all about. Our rights are under attack in America, and folks don't realize it. So All Rights Matter stands in solidarity with Black lives, of course. Let me try to find this. Where is this chart at? Here we go, guys. I found it. Apologize for the slow speed here. Not the fastest laptop in the world. It's getting the job done, so I'm not complaining. I missed my Mac, and I'll have it back soon, but this will work for now. Okay. 2010 crime rate comparisons. General public per 100,000, law enforcement per 100,000. This chart is going to break down, of course, per 100,000 people, what different crimes are amongst those that population of per 100,000. For all violent crime, we see that the general public has more violent crime than law enforcement, and that, of course, should be so. But what is so disturbing is if we're looking at the amount of incidents, well, the law enforcement is kind of close here. Now, take into account this is a 2010 statistical analysis, so I'm sure that the numbers are a bit different now that we're in 2016, but this is what, we have to work off of. So if we even go with this and we say that the numbers are anywhere close to this right now, we have a problem. Robbery, we see that, of course, what is a lot higher is the general public, because we know that the police respond to a lot of robbery calls. Assaults, that's very disturbing. We see that the law enforcement actually has more assaults per 100,000 people in their ranks. That is, to me, that's amazing. Now, where it gets very disturbing is sexual assaults, where you would expect the public to have per 100,000, people, a greater
rate of sexual assaults, we actually see that the people that have been entrusted with powerful positions, law enforcement officers, actually have a higher rate per 100,000 people. That to me, is more shocking than the fatal excessive force. I mean, the murders, which is 0.5% higher. So keep in mind these numbers are per 100,000. So there's only so many police officers, but there's a ton of people. But if we break it down per 100,000, we're able to get an idea of how these communities match up against each other. So with that being said, it's very easy to see that this is a problem. This is not a small problem. This is a huge, huge, huge problem whenever you have your law enforcement running rogue in the country where they are actually, on the verge of becoming a lawless factor within society. This is something that is unprecedented in other countries. Other countries do not see this kind of, these kind of numbers because they simply, their police officers are not overstepping the boundaries like American police officers are. The power trip that our police officers experience from carrying around their guns and badges is reflected in these numbers here. How are the people that are sworn to protect and serve you, how do they even get numbers that are anywhere close to the rates of citizens, of normal citizens sworn to protect and serve? So this is just going off of factual, logical data. And again, I'll leave links to this information for you so you can go over this yourself, pick it apart. The lady here actually leaves, the doctor, she actually leaves a lot of, her links here, her work here that document it very well, this whole report. So where she gets her statistics from. And I mean, it's just tremendously sad to know that our police officers are going around the country and raping our mothers, our wives, our daughters. And they themselves have mothers, wives, and daughters, but yet they take their position, their power, and they abuse that. And you end up with cases like this where when you're talking about sexual assault, the police officers are actually the ones who have a higher rate of sexual assault per 100,000. I mean, that is mind-blowing. There's the chart for you right there. Don't let anybody tell you that law enforcement has no problems and they only have a few things to fix. They have a lot to fix. And that's why we have to stand up, demand reform. That's why we have to demand change. I'm not for the marching, but I'm not against people standing up and getting accountability within their local communities. On a smaller scale, marching is a wonderful thing. On a larger scale, it's a very time-consuming, hard thing to accomplish when you're trying to change public policies, when you're trying to change the training. So what I believe is we need to focus a little bit more energy on actually getting into these places of power, infiltrating these places where we want change at. If we want the change, we have to be the change. That means we have to be those people. We have to remove those people, remove those elements, and replace them with the elements that are more desirable and fitting for our communities. Okay, so at the end of the day, anybody that's running around raping your mother, daughter, your sister, your wife, that's not the person that you want serving your community. That's not the person you want protecting your community. Anybody that's running around just assaulting people and using fatal excessive force, that's not the person you want serving your community. That's not the person that you want, protecting your children. All right. Let's look at some of these cases here. Two Oklahoma City law enforcement officers were arrested and charged with rape. In one case, the officer is alleged to have raped 8 Africana women, and the other officer is alleged to have raped 3 women. We're talking about serial rapists. We're not talking about officers that do it one time and it's over. Many times their victims are young. They're children. That's what you guys don't understand. The whole world or the whole nation is trying to say, hey, especially Republicans, let's stand up for these police officers. They have tough jobs and I stand by my cops. Okay, I understand that. I get that. You want to feel a sense of security. You want to know that you're honoring the people that are going out to protect the community as you go about your day. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's also nothing wrong with demanding accountability for these things that I'm about to read to you. You have to demand accountability for these types of things, because tomorrow, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Asian, it doesn't matter. Tomorrow it could be your wife, mother, daughter, child, whatever. It could be your loved one that is going through a case of excessive force or rape. I mean, these are things that either kill you or kill your soul. And if you have a wife and if you have a family, you have to care about that stuff, because if you don't want your wife pulled over on a dark night, from coming home from work or, hanging out with her girlfriends and she gets pulled over by a pervert, if you don't want that kind of thing to happen, then demanding accountability for these actions today is literally important. So you get with the people who are in the streets the most that are saying, hey, our communities are being affected with, a negative impact. We demand accountability. We demand justice. You get with those people because you say, you know what? I see the oligarchy is making a move where they're creating a police force that only serves the interests of the higher paying tax citizen, that pays, or the tax citizen that pays higher taxes, excuse me. So if the oligarchy is creating, this divided society where they have officers that are only there to protect infrastructure and to protect the wealth of the elite or the wealth of the community where the most tax dollars are. That means you have a problem in your community. That means you have policing that is not for the community. That means you have policing that is there to exploit the community, that is meant to control and subvert the community, in a way that is not constitutional. So let's go on with reading some of these cases that this report is based on. A former Georgia deputy from Cobb County was found guilty of 7 counts, including kidnapping, 2 counts of aggravated assault, aggravated sodomy, rape, and false imprisonment of a 23-year-old undocumented woman. A U.S. Border Patrol agent committed suicide after kidnapping and raping a 32-year-old woman and sexually assaulting her daughter. The agent slashed the mother's wrist and tried to break the neck of the 14-year-old. The 14-year-old passed out as a result of the attempt to kill her. Now, people will go ahead and say, oh, well, I want to hear you people now pipe up and say, oh, well, it's the fault of the mother. It's the fault of the daughter. What kind of clothes were they wearing? If you think like that, you shouldn't be in this country. You don't honor or respect our Constitution. You don't honor or respect law. There's nothing that you honor or respect. You don't honor or respect human rights, humanity, dignity. You shouldn't be in this country. You should question whether you should even be alive. Anytime that you would advocate for a mother and her 14-year-old daughter to be raped and almost killed, there is no excuse, and it makes it even more horrendous that this is done by somebody that is trusted with a gun and a badge. Let's move on. A federal lawsuit filed in El Monte, California, alleges that a uniformed police officer detained and raped a transgender woman in his patrol car in a dark, empty pub. A transgender woman. Okay? Now, we don't know how far along the process of being a transgender woman this individual was, but obviously this person identified as a transgendered person. So with that being said, born as a man. Now, when you have an officer that will literally take a person and rape a male, what are we talking about here? I mean, the more vulnerable species, of course, would be a female because of the makeup and the muscular structure of the female is a little bit different from men, so we're stronger. So we have now officers that are abusing their authority to a position where, and this is nothing new, we see that our transgender community being targeted. I may not stand up, because I'm not a homosexual male or I may not believe in homosexuality and living that lifestyle because of my own beliefs as far as, life is concerned. But at the end of the day, I believe in the rights of everybody. I don't care if you made up your own new sexual category tomorrow, transgender / something else. Doesn't matter to me. You still have God-given rights. And anybody who would take away your God-given rights, whether I agree with your lifestyle, whether you agree with mine, that doesn't matter. If someone takes away your God-given rights, that's wrong. We all have the same rights, and that's why I developed All Rights Matter, because I want to focus on the rights of everybody. All right? So let's take this a little bit further. Let's go down a little bit here. All right. A former officer awaiting sentencing on a conviction of sexually battering a woman was found dead in his cell in Pinellas County Jail. The 38-year-old was convicted of putting handcuffs on his victim, taking her to his house, and raping her. Former Memphis police officer found guilty of raping a college student. After exchanging her cell phone number with the officer, he used his cell phone to gain access to the county law enforcement database and resources to find the woman's home address. He arrived at the victim's home that same night, was allowed entry by her roommate, and the woman stated she woke up with the officer on top of her, raping her. How cold is that? How much more of a bold sexual predator do you have to be to do something like that? How much abuse of the authority do you have to garnish to do something like that? This is sick. Some of these people are sick in the head, and this is what you're supporting unequivocally without standing up and saying, hey, but wait, we got to get this under control. I just showed you the chart. I showed you the statistics. You can act like they don't exist if you want to. Let's keep going. Ex-NYPD officer, lost it. Try to bring it back. Ex-NYPD officer points 9mm handgun in female teacher's face, threatens to kill her and sexually assaults her. The offender's DNA is found on the victim's undergarments, but he is not convicted of rape, although he was convicted of rape in several other cases involving different women. New York does not define forced sodomy as an oral sex as rape. Lydia Cuomo is speaking out and lending her support to the Rape is Rape bill. In 2012, the bill was rejected by the Assembly. This is what we're talking about. So when you have Giuliani come out and saying, hey, Black Lives Matter, terrorist organization, and they're racist. That's Giuliani wanting to hold on to the good old boy system, wants to hold on to, the CIA, FBI overreach of the African American community through the police department. So you got to understand your federal government works with your state government and your local government to gain information about you. So people like Giuliani are not interested in what you think, what your community is going through, what you're feeling, anything like that, what your rights are. They only care about what the federal government wants and those special interests. That's it. That's all they care about. Giuliani will not sit here and tell you about the ex-NYPD officer that raped a school teacher. How are you a police officer in New York City and you rape a school teacher? And then he got off. Guys. That's the kicker. Do you understand that? This man got away with rape, and his DNA was found on the school teacher. I'm the bad guy for giving you the information, right? Okay, let's keep going. Police sergeant doubles as serial rapist gets 440 years in prison after being convicted of 35 counts of rape, kidnapping and stalking, one of the longest sentences in Illinois history. 35 counts of rape. Did you hear me? 35 counts of rape. 35 families that are affected forever. Now, as far as we know, he didn't kill one black person, but he killed the souls of 35 women. Should anybody stand up for that? Do their lives matter? This is what I'm talking about. You demonize Black Lives Matter, but there's so more to the story that you refuse to acknowledge and talk about. Police officers are running around this country raping women, literally raping them. They are, you know what, let's get bold about it. They are raping more women and sexually assaulting more women than the amount of them that die each year. I believe last year's statistics, I believe it was 40-something officers died last year, and I don't remember how many in the line of duty. Now, any officer that died, any life that has passed away, especially in the line of duty, is a tragedy. But 41 compared to over 1,000 that they killed, that's when you start to say, wait a second, something is a little bit lopsided here. Okay? But then when you compare the rape statistics, I believe it was double that or even more than that. So what we're talking about is, now anybody that would have sexually assaulted or raped a female and you're in a position of power, maybe you deserve a death sentence. Maybe you deserve to have something, to a life sentence, something harsh, so that you know that you should not be out here. I mean, some of these things are so gross, I don't even know if I'm going to read a couple of them. Yeah, I am. I'm going to read it. They're so gross where these people are actually, these are actually raping kids, infants, toddlers. Let's keep it. 2 Chicago police officers charged with sexually assaulting one woman, although 5 came forward. Had the sexual charges dropped against them as part of a plea bargain in which each one pled guilty to felony official misconduct and was sentenced to 2 years probation. They will not spend any time in prison. So all you people that are talking about what's going on in Chicago, look at this, what's happening in their police department. 2 were charged with sexually assaulting one woman, although 5 forward. And they won't be spending any time in prison. Let's keep going. Former Boise officer confessed to gruesome case of sexual abuse. Officers state that he may have raped up to 20 infants or toddlers. Investigators state at least 5 of the 20 victims were infants. Details indicating the officer purposely worked at an elementary school with young children emerged. The offender spent 11 years with children who were mostly taught to trust police officers. Now, if that's not damning, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. Okay? Now, let's go from this Boise case right here. I believe this is a good transition point. I'm going to take you over here to another case. That case right there, that report that I just read to you again, that was compiled mainly based off of the rape that is happening to the African American women within these communities around the United States, but it goes also into more cases of more than just African American women. It goes into the rape culture of the police departments. So let's go, and a lot of those times, a lot of those cases are downplayed and stuff like that. So I'll leave links to that. You guys could delve into that and get into that 100%. But for time's sake, I'm going to go into a very specific case. And I believe this was also in Boise. Yes. It says right up here in the corner, Boise Weekly. So we went with a proper transition We stayed right in Idaho, right in Boise. Okay? I'm going to take you to a case that I read years ago, and I never forgot it. I never shared it, but I didn't forget it. And it's not out there in the public sphere like that. It didn't, a big splash throughout the news. If you go to search for it on Google, it's pretty hard to find. But this is the Ombudsman report, that is pretty much filed by the city, if you will. So this is kind of like the public defender's office in a kind of a way. The man that was affected by the situation, this is the office that he. So let's find out what actually happened to this guy. We're going to go all the way. This is a very, very, very long report. Okay. If we could, I'm just going to get down to the audio recording, guys. And I'm going to give you the idea of what happened here. Okay. This is a transcript of the audio recording. Now, this, has a lot of information. I tried really hard finding the actual audio was posted, but that link is now broken because it's such an old article. But I'll give you a quick gist of what happened. Officers were called to, I guess, a house by someone that was not in the house, and I believe they were called there probably for domestic disturbance issue because there was an argument or something like that going on. For some reason, the guy that was arguing with this woman thought that her friends were coming over and he was trying to keep them out as the police were trying to come in. I'm not sure how this whole thing played out. But when they gained entry to the house, they throw the guy on the floor, and he goes down relatively easy. He's not fighting. He's not wielding any weapons or anything like that. But they have him in a position where he can't breathe. And there's something called a positional asphyxia. So he was becoming asphyxiated. And his oxygen was being cut off as he was laying on his stomach. And normally the cops have a knee on you or something, like that to make sure you don't move around too much and just to kind of keep a firm grip on you to make sure you stay in place. So a lot of the times these cops very heavy knee on you. And I believe that's what the case was in this gentleman's situation. And we're going to go over the audio a little bit, and you're going to find out what the police officers did to this man. And I'll tell you what happened after that. So let's go over this a little bit. All right. See here we have, it's up here. O1 is Officer 1 and on. C is the complainant. 1 is W is the witness. Okay? All right. All right. So they get to the scene. It says, open the door. It says, call the cops. The complainant says, call the cops. Unintelligible, something, fuck off. Sounds consistent with rapid movement by officer. Somebody says he's holding it shut. There's a struggle that's obviously going on at the door. So this is why they're trying to get him to, open the door. He's trying to keep the door closed. So they go to run around back to gain entry towards the back of the door. All right. All right. Back to opening the door, all that kind of stuff. All right. So they get entry right about here. And you'll notice it says, gee, damn it, what the fuck? I wasn't doing anything here. It says, get on the ground. Okay, you see they've got him down on the ground now. Get your hands behind your back. They already are, sir. So it sounds like complying. He's very coherent and complying. Get your hands behind your back. All right, sir. Okay, and the officer, the officer was talking to somebody. Sir, I thought, boom, Officer 3, move. So, you see here, he's already trying to explain himself, maybe why he didn't open the door or whatever. The complainant says here, I thought it was our friends trying to get in. Guy says, bullshit. Says, the taser up your asshole. Complainant, I did, sir, I didn't touch, lay hands on her. So obviously there's some kind of discussion. whether, the all turned into anything that was physical. So, but there's no indication through this report that anything actually physical did happen, except to him. Okay, clicking sound consistent with the sound made when so. All right, the male says, okay, is this the only problem? 04 says, yeah, I think so. Check. We need somebody to check the house with a kid, or maybe 4 with PD, 1 more unit code, 3 downgrade, 1 other unit code, 2 cancel the rest. So they canceled any kind of backup because they gained entry. Everything was under control. So he's on the ground for a minute here. Everything is, it's fine. He's under control. He's on the ground. He's not a threat. He's not doing anything. He's not trying to get away. He's not trying to hold, of course, he's not trying to hold him out. He's handcuffed. Talking to him. You heard us yelling, Boise police. No, we didn't. He's asking now, probably the female ma'am, who else is in the house? The witness 1, just me and him. Okay, here you go. And the complainant says, can you let me up, please? Officer 3 now says, if you move again, I'm going to stick this taser up your ass. Complainant says, okay, and pull the trigger. Complainant says, I'm sorry. 03 says, do you understand? Yes, I do. I do, sir. Officer 4, unintelligible. Officer 3, do you feel this? Yes, sir. Do you feel that? That's my, okay, taser up your ass. Okay, so don't move. I'm trying not to. I can't breathe. Stop moving. Now the complainant cries out. Okay, now he's saying, pick me up. And now you can see when that crying out, first taser deployment. Now he says, do you want another taser deployment on you? Right? No, sir, I can't breathe. Stop, sir. I can't breathe. Just let me up. Or another one. So all in all, I'm not going to, even continue going through the rest of this. I'll leave this here for you. Goes back and forth, still saying he can't breathe. He can't breathe. Now, this on your balls? I do, sir. I'm not going to move. I'm not going to move. Now I'm going to tase your balls if you move again. So they tased the man in his testicles as well. Now, for you guys, for the sake of this video and going any further, I'm just going to go straight to the end here and show you, the last part here. But they pretty much, this officer stuck the taser in this guy's ass and tased him several times to the point where he burned his inner right butt cheek, he burned them, and actually his scrotum area from the use of that taser being in that area of the body. Do you understand what I'm saying? The man's on the ground, handcuffed, getting raped, sodomized by a taser in his ass and a taser forced against his genitals. Do you understand, guys? Are you getting how sick this is? How the depravity of this? I mean, you have to really, really, really be a sick individual to engage in this activity. And you have to be just as sick to sit by and let this happen to another person. Okay? So, Officer 1, this is right at the end, says, as far as I know, he's the boyfriend that she didn't want to spend any time with. I'm not sure who the med units are here for. Is it for his nuts? That's Officer 1. This officer understands what was going on. This officer knows what was going on. Do you see what I'm saying? So the man filed a lawsuit. A $500,000 lawsuit was filed, but this was filed, come on. This was filed, public defender status. The guy didn't have any money. He's a, lower income guy. He's just a regular guy. Doesn't have any kind of savings account where he can magically go pay some kind of high retainer fee for these kind of cases, which cost thousands of dollars. So he gets a lawyer, that is a public defender, pretty much. They go for $500,000. Don't get the $500,000. Instead, he ends up settling out of court for $150,000. Those officers all kept their jobs, and the public was told that they were ended, and nothing official ever came of that reprimand as far as anyone losing any kind of any kind of rank or anything else. And as a matter of fact, one of the officers that was listed in the suit actually filed a $2 million lawsuit after this guy got paid $150,000 for what happened to him. And one of the officers involved filed a $2 million lawsuit against the city over the incident, because it seems that he was singled out more than the others within the lawsuit, and that he had less to do with it. This is what I'm talking about, guys. Citizens are literally being raped. The cops are being let off the hook, and then they're suing. This is your tax dollars. This is your money going towards a cop rape culture. Not only are they killing citizens and using excessive force, black and white, black at a higher rate, but they're killing some of these white guys and girls as well too. Okay? So not only are they doing that, but they literally have the audacity to be out here taking your mother, your wife, your daughter, and raping her. If that doesn't anger you, if that doesn't make what's going on in this culture, you support the thin blue line. But when they rape your family members and then hide behind that blue line, are you going to support it then? When no one goes to jail for rape? When no one goes to jail for forced sodomy? Aggravated assault? Excessive force? Come on, man. This is what we're talking about. Now do you guys understand a little bit better what I say? When I say Black Lives Matter, Black lives do matter. Yeah, all lives matter. We know that. It's silly. You know, that nobody started an all lives matter movement. There is no such thing as an all lives matter movement. There's only a Black Lives Matter movement and an all rights matter movement. The Black Lives Matter movement was started out of legitimacy. It was started out of concerns that are happening to the African American community that have been happening and have not stopped. Our community is still experiencing convict leasing. If you don't know what that is, look it up. After slavery was over, they arrested African Americans just for being black and not having a job. That was day one after slavery was over. You got arrested for standing around without a job. And once you got arrested, they took you to the courthouse. You're poor, you don't have a job, you can't make bail. Guess who came to pick you up for your bail? Your slave master that just let you go from the plantation. Picked you up, now he takes you back to this plantation. You have to work off that amount of money. And you're not free to go until you work off that money on the plantation that you just got freed from. That mentality of convict leasing still exists in America. We have prisons that are corporate-owned prisons where the inmates go and then they perform labor for corporations. Convict leasing. Corporations are taking over this country. They're using the labor of prisoners, meaning subverting jobs here in the United States, and also getting third world employers to do the job. But yet black people are sticking up and saying, hey, you can't do that to us anymore. This isn't right. Not only can you not kill us, you can't take us from your schools, put us in your prisons, make us do your cheap labor, kick us out of prison, and then say you have no constitutional rights because you're a convict. That's what black people are experiencing in America. The dream is not the same for us. Not the same as a foreigner that can come over and get loans easier than us that were born here. The dream is not the same for African Americans. So that's what's going on in America right now, where, I really felt like I was losing it here. After watching these three situations that just happened, Dallas, Baton Rouge, right up the street from where I live, Bristol, Tennessee, seeing, these situations where these cops got killed. I'm a Black Army veteran. In case you haven't noticed, I'm black. but I'm an African American Army veteran. That I'm sick and tired of the cops killing my brothers and sisters. The cops killed one of my brothers last year. His name is Philip White. He's actually a friend of mine. They took his life March 31st of 2015. 2 cops murdered him in Vineland, New Jersey. After they finished assaulting him and then releasing their dog on him, which put lacerations on his face and neck and his upper body. After they finished raining down blows on an unconscious man and then releasing their dog on this unconscious man while they're beating him up, and then saying he's reaching for their gun as he's unconscious. After they're done all of this, one of them rides in the ambulance to the hospital with him, which Philip dies in the ambulance. The report that came out from the grand jury said that Philip was coherent and he was okay when the ambulance actually got there. That was deemed to be a lie by the video that I put out 2 days after it happened. Okay? It shows on the lie, on the video, that Philip was clearly incoherent, unconscious, unresponsive, slumped. They were picking up his limbs and he was just flopping. He was knocked out. But they made it sound like he got on the ambulance on his own power. Everything was fine. And that wasn't the case. The initial call, was because people were concerned about him. Because something was going on in the neighborhood, so folks were concerned. They were supposed to be there out of concern. Realized that he may have been suffering from some kind of attack or maybe a high or something like that. So instead of de-escalating the situation, the cops decided to try to take him down, to beat him down, raise the situation, escalate the situation, which resulted in his death. He was beat down to the ground, bloodied, and left with lacerations on his body. That's how he left this earth. Immediately, the attorney for the Vineland Police Department, Stuart Alderman, came out and said, the police officers were never throwing punches. He said this to the media, to NBC in Philadelphia. The police officers were never throwing punches, and that Philip White was combative. I immediately released a video with a breakdown showing the police officers raining down blows on a man. They were side mounted. They had him in a side mount position and he wasn't even moving, guys. There was no way he could even defend himself. He's just getting hit, repeatedly hit. And then as he's not defending himself, the police officer on top of him tells the dog to get him while he's on top of him. Philip was not going for the police officer's gun, but yet the police officer standing at Philip's feet, not the one that was mounting him, standing at Philip's feet, says he's going for my gun. Philip was unconscious. So as I seen these 3 events unfold in Dallas, Baton Rouge, Tennessee, Bristol, I believe, I think it was Bristol, yeah. As an African American veteran who is extremely frustrated with police officers, I've been put in the hospital by police officers myself. As a veteran, I've been put in the police. I've been called nigger. You better stop running, nigger, or else I'm going to shoot. I stopped running, and they beat me the hell up and put me in the hospital that night. That was 10 years ago. I'll never forget that. I was running because where I was living at the time was a drug-infested neighborhood. And that time of night, anybody rolls up to you riding across a field without any lights on, no police lights, and no mention of who they are, and they just start riding towards you across a field. Yeah, you better run. where I was living at, you better run, especially if it's 2 cars. So, once I got to the middle of the second field, that's when I started seeing lights, and that's when I heard, "Stop running, nigger, before we shoot you. You better stop running, nigger, before I shoot you." These same police officers killed Philip White. So, when I seen these 3 events, the amount of rage, the amount of frustration, it started peeking its way to the top. And I don't advocate for killing people. Unless it's in self-defense, then I advocate for you standing up for your right to life. Anybody try to take your life, you better take theirs. You let no man take your life. You defend your life, your honor, your rights into the death. So I advocate 100% for self-defense against any enemy, foreign and domestic. And I stand by that. But I don't advocate for killing men who have not even been not convicted of a crime, but accused of a crime. So the 3 shooters that had killed the police officers, I know some of them will possibly be looked at as heroes by certain elements of the society that is just as equally and more frustrated than me. I don't look at any of them as heroes, but I do look at them as harbingers. They are harbingers of things to come. There is so much to come that is going to start ripping this country apart. And best believe that this is handled by your Jewish-controlled media, by your subservient to the Jewish-controlled media, your white oligarchy here in the United States, and your royal families from your Euro-royal family. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about a hierarchy of control that is pretty much untouchable for most of us. And this is just what we have to live with and deal with. But, let's be very clear. But, we have to live with it and deal with it, but always keep striding to change it. We can't go checking out early saying, I'm just going to commit suicide or any kind of crazy stuff like that, or I'm going to go commit homicide and kill as many of those pigs as I can. That's not the right mentality. The Black Panthers could say oink oink pig and this and that and taunting cadences. That's all fine if you're for that. I personally, maybe that's good for letting out some frustration. I'm personally more into something constructive. We want to do more constructive things, like taking care of our children, the breakfast program that was actually implemented by the Black Panthers, things like that. Education, that's number 1 to me. Education for our children, for the generations coming up tomorrow. We need education. I like what Dr. Umar Johnson is actually doing by trying to open up a school for us. And and not just for us, but also to bring us into studies of self, who we are and where we come from, what we truly mean, and to do that from a young age all the way through school. I believe that's tremendously important, and that will help out with the African understanding his and her identity, self-identity outside of American cultures and values. The Black people, the African American people, we have to get back to our culture. America is not our culture. America is not what we should value. It's a place that we fought alongside of our oppressors, and me as a military veteran, I could say that I have helped to secure this country. I've done things that you wouldn't even dream of. But I've helped to secure this country among some of the best, like General Abrams. Working side by side with people like this to help secure this country, risking life. Because I really truly care about this country. But the culture and the values of this country are not more important than my heritage, than the culture, my culture, and my heritage as a person. You know, to be American means to give up your culture in many instances. You ask, you know, people who they are and what they identify with, and a lot of people just say American. You don't find Germans that actually still practice their German culture, Irish people that practice their Irish culture outside of St. Patty's Day. There's a lot of people that when they take on the tag of American, it means to water down what your culture is. And for African Americans, all of that was stripped from us immediately from the door, and we've never rebuilt it. So people like Dr. Umar Johnson, who are out here trying to do a good job and actually start a school and bring that African culture back to us for self-identity purposes, it's big. And that's what I stand for. And I have some ideas that hopefully the doctor will contact me one day and I can help him out with some of the great ideas that I believe that we can offer to our community here in no time. So, you know, guys, I wanted to just give you a breakdown and show you, literally show you, Black Lives Matter is not evil. It's not filled with a bunch of hateful people that, you know, don't know what they're talking about. No, we have Princeton professors. We have, you know, people from all walks of life. We have all kinds of people with their doctorate's degrees that are compiling these tremendously important reports and this data that's showing that not only are police officers disproportionately taking the lives of African Americans, but they're also involved in a culture of rape. Not just excessive force, not just aggravated assault, but rape. And many of those times, those rapes involve minors, young children. We can't stand by and allow this to happen. We can't stand by and allow our police force to turn into what it was for Adolf Hitler in Germany. The oligarchy is taking over, and it's time that you wake up. Before the UN puts boots on the ground, and the only citizens that they respect will be those who are called global citizens. And that's another report that's on my YouTube channel. You need to look into that. On your life, you need to look into that. You need to know about the global citizens. You have to know about it. So that's what we're talking about here. It's pretty soon this is going to be out of the hands of black people. If you keep demonizing black people and saying that those folks over there, that's their problem and they're just whiners, they're just complainers, then soon the tyranny will be at your doorstep. This racism is only predicated by one thing, and that's classism. And the divide is already starting to widen now. The middle class is being decimated. If you think that tearing down black people who are looking for righteous justice is going to help and further your cause for tomorrow, you are sadly mistaken. You are tearing down the very cause, the very righteousness that could help you help to save your cause for tomorrow. If African Americans have stood with their white brothers and sisters even after oppression for all of these years, and we've shed our blood on the battlefields, on this battlefield, on the battlefields here in the United States and around the world, don't you think you owe it to African Americans just to give them a little bit of respect? A little bit of respect. And say, hey, maybe these guys have something legitimate they're talking about over here. Let me see if I can help them out. If you can't figure out what I'm talking about, I'd refer you to Matthew 25, verses 35 to 46. If you can tailor your life to live around Matthew 25, 35 to 46, then you can understand the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay? Our house is on fire right now. Our house is on fire. And when you call the fire department, they don't come out there and say, when they come out there, the homeowner 5 houses down doesn't say, hey, where's the water from my houses? All houses matter. No, Black Lives Matter right now is that house that's on fire. We're being burned down to the ground as a race in this country through neo-eugenics and other vices from the oppressors within this country. And if you don't know what neo-eugenics is, look it up. That's the new eugenics. But you better find out what eugenics is and go back a little bit and find out how eugenics had its roots in Nazi Germany and how it has come across here. How we had the Urban Birth Control League under Margaret Sanger, and how that morphed into Planned Parenthood. All these programs are nothing more than population control programs. Forced sterilizations didn't end until the 1970s for African Americans in the United States. We were forced to be sterilized. So don't ever believe that your government benefits have anything to do with reparations, because they don't. Your not so distant ancestors were forced to be sterilized just to receive government benefits. And it doesn't stop there with the nastiness. Their children were forced to be sterilized if they were deemed unfit, undesirable. This eugenics movement that's going through America, now the neo-eugenics movement, they've already implemented Planned Parenthood, so they've been able to greatly reduce the amount of black babies born in the United States. We would have one of the leading populations in this country if it wasn't for the millions upon millions upon millions of black bodies that have never even been able to be delivered in this world. That was a plan set out by the eugenicists that have controlled our population in this country. Now the neo-eugenicists, they're moving into the next level of evolution. Genomics. Come on, guys. Now we're getting back to the DNA again, to who has the superior DNA, and the folks that want to play around with the DNA. Now they have their host bodies so that they can start implanting these children with the modified traits. Just as if, I'm going to call it what it is, GMO babies. Okay? So they've already amped up the gay rights platform. So now they can start working on handing you the GMO babies. Exploitation happens at all levels, guys. The black people are not just the only people being exploited. We have some of the worst exploitation, but the gay rights people, you guys are being exploited as well. Oh yeah, you're about to be exploited by the neo-eugenics mindset. And it's not about to be, it's already underway. It's already happening. So, I've given you a lot of information here, guys, more than I wanted to actually delve into. But my whole point is Black Lives Matter is not just about the black bodies that are piling up every year and the over 1,000 Americans that are killed by law enforcement professionals in the United States every year. It's not about that. Less than 100 law enforcement professionals out of the thousands of them, less than 100 die in the line of duty every year. As a matter of fact, if we tallied it out, it would be, I believe, less than 1 per state. Less than 1 per state every year. Okay? But the bodies of Americans are starting to pile up, and it's coming in the thousands. The excessive force, the beatings, the rapes, they're starting to pile up. The statistics show us that per 100,000, These police officers are well more violent and devious with their authority than average Americans are amongst their own fellow citizenry. That's a problem. It's a systemic problem. I consider myself to be a fairly educated African American veteran. I like to read a lot. I like to study a lot. I like to talk a lot. Check out my show, The All Rights Matter Show, Wednesdays, 8 o'clock on anonradio.live. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Type in Who is Sincere on YouTube and my channel will come up. Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe right after this video. Just click on Who is Sincere and subscribe. This information that I'm giving you is from the heart. It's from my studies. It's from what I've watched. And some of it is actually from what I've experienced, like being put in the hospital by police officers, racist cops. Like my friend being killed by the same police department, Philip White. And then the justice that was subverted, for Philip White. The appeal, the process is still actually ongoing. The attorney is actually going to do more with the Philip White situation, so I just want to give you an update there. But the fight is not over. Contact me on Facebook to figure out how you can get involved. Guys, we have a systemic problem in this country. We need to face it. We need to face the facts. These police officers are violent. They are taking advantage of Americans. And if they're not killing us, then raping us and killing the soul is just as worse, if not worse. We have a problem in America. I don't want to hear the police officer that I heard speaking, the black officer, that Black Lives Matter is creating a problem for law enforcement and is targeting law enforcement. Nothing could be further from the truth. These three shooters have been proven to not be a part of the Black Lives Matter movement, and they were acting as lone wolves. So I reject the notion of this very uneducated police official, whoever he was, that black guy that, is calling Black Lives Matter racist. I reject his ideas. I reject his rhetoric. It's nothing but rhetoric. He's already been proven to be factually wrong. But these police officers will tell you that, no, none of this stuff is happening. I've just read an hour of my time and read you the facts. Go take that to a police officer the next time that they say that we're here to serve and protect. Ask them why they're not standing up against their own kind, instead sticking up for criminals. When you stick up for a criminal, you're the same as the criminal. And that's why these criminal elements can't be rooted out of our police departments, because our quote-unquote good officers, they're not being too good when it comes to calling out crime. If you worry more about that paycheck than you do about the rights of the people that you serve and protect, you're just as corrupt. I said it, and I meant it. No such thing as a good cop when that cop has the blood of corruption on their hands through not standing up for righteousness. With that being said, I'll leave you guys with that. I'll just leave you guys with that. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. Make sure you share this video far and wide. Don't let this subject matter go untalked about. The rape culture amongst law enforcement professionals is out of control. And it's even worse than the amount of bodies that are piling up from the excessive force. We have to get this under control, guys. With that being said, guys, stay alert, stay alive, don't freak out.